This photograph was taken by Alice Seeley Harris. The man's name is Nsala. Here is part of her encounter. He hadn't made his rubber quota for the day, so the Belgian-appointed overseer had cut off his daughter's hand and foot. Her name was Boali. She was 5 years old. Then they killed her, but they weren't finished. Then they killed his wife too. This is the story of Nsala. Remember to like and subscribe to this very channel for subsequent content coming through only. And because that didn't seem quite cruel enough, quite strong enough to make their case, they cannibalized both Boali and her mother, and then presented Nsala with the tokens, the leftovers, from once living body of his darling child whom he so loved. His life was destroyed. He had partially destroyed it anyway by forcing his servitude, but these acts finished it for him. All of these filth had occurred because one man who lived thousands of miles across the sea, one man who couldn't get rich enough, had decreed that this land was his and that these people should serve his own greed. Leopold had not given any thought to the idea that these African children, these men and women, were our fully human brothers, created equally by the same hand that had created his own lineage of European royalty. The Congo Free State was a corporate state in Central Africa, privately owned by King Leopold II of Belgium, founded and recognized by the Berlin Conference of 1885. In the 23 years, that is, from 1885 to 1908, Leopold II ruled the Congo. He massacred 10 million Africans by cutting off their hands and genitals, flogging them to death, starving them into forced labor, holding children ransom, and burning villages. The ironic part of this story is that Leopold II committed these atrocities by not even setting foot in the Congo. Under Leopold II's administration, the Congo Free State became one of the greatest international scandals of the early 20th century. The Abbey Congo Company, founded as the Anglo-Belgian India Rubber Company and later known as the Campagne du Congo, was the company appointed to exploit natural rubber in the Congo Free State. The company enjoyed a bond through the late 1890s by selling a kilo of rubber in Europe for up to 10 FR, which had cost them just 1.35 FR. However, this came at the cost to the human rights of those who couldn't pay their tax, with imprisonment, flogging, and other corporate punishment recorded. Failure to meet the rubber collection quotas was punishable by death. They was required to provide the hands of their victims as proof when they had shot and killed someone, as it was believed that they would use the miniatures for hunting. As consequences, the rubber quotas were in part paid off in chopped off hands. Sometimes the hands were collected by the soldiers of the forced public, sometimes by the villagers themselves. There were even small wars where villages attacked neighboring villages to gather hands, since their rubber quotas were too unrealistic to fill. A Catholic priest quotes a man saying, speaking of the hated state official who ran a district along the river 500 kilometers north of Stanley Pole. All blacks saw this man as the devil himself. From all the bodies killed in the field, you had to cut off the hand. He wanted to see the number of hands cut off by each soldier, who had to bring them in baskets. A village that refused to provide a rubber would be completely swept clean. As a young man, the soldier said, "I saw Soldier Molili then gather in the village of Buyika, take a net, put 10 arrested natives in it, attach big stones to the net, and take it tumble into the river." Rubber caused these torments. That's why we no longer want to hear its name spoken. Soldiers made young men kill or rape their own mothers and sisters. Junior European officers described the raid to punish a village that had protested. The European officers in command ordered us to cut off the heads of the men and hang them on the village palisade, and to hang the women and the children on the palisade in the form of a cross. After seeing a Congolese person killed for the first time, a Danish missionary wrote, the soldiers said, "Don't take these to heart so much. They kill us if we don't bring the rubber." The commissioner has promised us that if we have plenty of hands, he will shorten our service. In Forbat's words, the basket of served hands set down at the foot of the European post commanders became the symbol of the Congo Free State. The collection of hands became an end in itself. Forced public soldiers brought them to the station in place of rubber. They even went out to harvest them instead of the rubber. They became a sort of currency. They came to be used to make up for shortfalls in rubber quotas, to replace the people who were demanded for the forced labor gangs, and the forced public soldiers were paid their bonus on the basis of how many hands they collected. In theory, each right hand proved a killing. In practice, soldiers sometimes cheated by simply cutting off the hand and leaving the victim to live or die. More than a few survivors later said that they had lived through the massacre by acting dead, not moving when their hands were served, and waiting till the soldiers left before seeking help. In some instances, a soldier could shorten his service term by bringing more hands than the other soldiers, which led to widespread mutilations and dismemberment. A reduction of the population of the Congo is noted by all who have compared the country at the beginning of Leopold's control and the beginning of Belgian state rule in 1908. But estimates of the death toll vary considerably. Estimates of contemporary observers suggest that the population decreased by half during this period, and these are supported by some modern scholars such as Jane Van Sina. Others dispute this. Scholars at the Royal Museum for Central Africa argue that the decrease of 15% of the first 40 years of colonial rule up to the census of 1924. The legacy of the population decline of Leopold's reign left the subsequent colonial government with a severe labor shortage, and it often had to resort to mass migration to provide workers to emerging businesses. The atrocities of the era generated public debates about Leopold, his specific role in them, and his legacy. Belgian crowd booed at his funeral in 1909 to express their dissatisfaction with his rule of the Congo. Attention to the atrocities subsided in the following years, and statues of him were erected in the 1930s at the initiative of the Abbot I, while the Belgian government celebrated his accomplishments in Belgium. The release of Hochschild's King's Leopold's Ghosts in 1999 deeply reignited debate in Belgium, which resurfaced periodically over the following 20 years. In 2005, a motion before the British House of Commons, introduced by Andrew Dismore, called for the recognition of the Congo Free State atrocity as a colonial genocide, and called on the Belgian government to issue a formal apology to the people of Congo. Thank you so much for watching this very video on Frank Speaks. Do remember to like, drop a comment, and also hit the notification bell. Please do well to subscribe to this very channel for more mind-blowing content and crazy stories around the world. Thank you so much for watching.